Albert Einstein, the great thinker and scientist, he once said that our generations would never be able to believe that such a person in flesh ever walked on the surface of the earth. So it can't be that the means are bad. If you get good ends, that does not justify. So that is why he said that you must stick to the truth and stick to the noble means, and in order to achieve the ends. Gandhiji said that following the principles of non-violence is going to take the world towards a much better world.
Hello aspirants and welcome to our Ethics Conversation series video. It is believed that humans are mortals but ideas are immortals. Even today, many ideas and thinkers shape our personal and social thinking process. In this video series, we will be covering different thinkers from India and world who have shaped our social and maybe personal thinking process, have influenced in our life. To discuss this with us, we have with us Krishna Mohan sir, who is a distinguished retired IAS officer from Haryana cadre and is currently a Vision IAS faculty. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paritosh.
Sir, when it comes to Indian thinkers, naturally Mahatma Gandhi's G names comes to our mind consciously. So what exactly made Mahatma Gandhi to the Gandhi?
Paritosh, Gandhi was a multifaceted personality, and there is not even one virtue or value which he did not possess. He was full of values and virtues which he taught the entire world. And his thinking influenced not only the influential persons who were leaders of the world, but also the common masses. And he was instrumental in bringing about freedom for our country. And therefore, Gandhiji will remain for years together very, very relevant in our history. Albert Einstein, the great thinker and scientist, he once said that our generations would never be able to believe that such a person in flesh ever walked on the surface of the earth. So this is the kind of reputation which Gandhiji enjoyed, and still he is regarded as the father of the nation in this country. And therefore his teachings, his principles, his philosophy are taught in the ethics, integrity and aptitude paper also. It is a must for every civil servant and also for every political leader.
So before beginning with the discussion on Gandhiji, can you tell us briefly about his childhood days, his family, and again his social life?
So Paritosh, every human being is influenced majorly by three influences. One, that of the family; the second, the society; and third, the educational institutions. So Gandhiji was influenced by his parents. His mother was a very noble lady, very religious lady, firmly believer of truth and non-violence, and that is how he was influenced from his mother. His father was a more practical person, and therefore practical applications of life he was able to imbibe from his father. But besides that, Gandhiji was a voracious reader. He had read probably every religious book, and he was very, very influenced by both Hindu religion and Jain religion. So this is how the educational institutions and the family influenced him. Coming to the society, Gandhiji was very much influenced by Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramhans and Tagore. So this is how from his early childhood days he was able to understand the nuances of every religion and the values and the virtues which are required for a human being. And then later on he had so many experiences, traumatic experiences in his life. For example, he lost his father at a very young age, and he lost his own son after marriage very early. And then he went to Africa and he suffered at the hands of those who were the whites. He was turned out of the train, as you know, it's a famous incident. And then he thought that there is a necessity to take up the cause against the oppression of the people. But he had his own philosophy. He would base it on the principles of truth and non-violence.
So, as you talked about philosophy, Gandhiji's contribution to freedom struggle is known to all of them. But when it comes to philosophy, his philosophical thoughts, what kind of thoughts he had, it is very still unknown. So, can you share some philosophical thoughts of Gandhiji?
So, Paritosh, there were at least 24 thoughts which can be called his philosophy or the way of life. The first one, of course, is truth. So, he practiced truth in every aspect, in thought, deed, and action. And he lived the life with truthfulness. He would never tell a lie. And this thing he incorporated in all his action, and he felt that both ends and means are necessarily required to be noble. So it can't be that the means are bad. If you get good ends, that does not justify. So that is why he said that you must stick to the truth and stick to the noble means, and in order to achieve the ends. So for him, both ends and means were important. The second thing, which was ahimsa or non-violence, so he led a anti-salt movement. So salt was being manufactured by the Britishers, nobody else was able to manufacture. So therefore, the salt tax and manufacturing of salt, that was something which was kept by the Britishers, and he led a march which was a non-violent march, and showed to the Britishers that it is their right, it is the right of the Indians. So that was the principle of ahimsa, and also the entire freedom struggle of India is based on ahimsa, and that is how many other world leaders also have emulated the principle of ahimsa. Then coming to some other important philosophies, one was that he believed that we should be economically independent, and therefore he said we should banish whatever is foreign. We should manufacture our things in our own country, and that is why he laid stress on khadi. And he said that khadi is a very good cloth and we should spin it in the houses itself. That is how the charkha came. And he also led a life of simplicity, and he felt that materialism is really not required. We should be non-materialistic. We should lead our life very, very simple means, and that will also have an effect on the environmental sustainability, because the more natural resources we consume, our future generations are going to blame us. So he said, let us lead a very, very simple life. And then he talked about the rural development, and he felt that the rural areas should get a facelift. The entire development should particularly be concentrated in the rural areas, and he evolved the concept of rural industry, or in other words, you can say that kutir udyog as he called. And he said that the needs of the village should be fulfilled from the village itself. And he also said that there should be democracy at the grassroots level, and that is through the panchayats. And he said the entire developmental scenario at the village should be taken over by the panchayat. It should be from bottom to top approach rather than top to bottom approach. And he said simple disputes within the village should also be solved there itself. Then he was a firm believer that we must stick to the noble principles, values in our day-to-day actions, and that is why this forms a very, very important part of our ethics paper. There were many other things, for example, women empowerment. So he was an advocate for education for women. He was an advocate for environmental sustainability. He was also very much concerned that we should have Swaraj. So he said we should rule the country, and that is how he led the movement for independence. He also evolved the concept of Suraj, which is the principle of good governance which we are following nowadays. He was a firm believer of integrity. So he said, whatever you preach, you should practice. And that is why whatever he said, he first of all practiced that. So that integrity perhaps is the greatest value which is required not only amongst the civil servants but also the politicians.
So you very beautifully summarized the core philosophies of Gandhiji. I would like to ask one by one few of these philosophies. Gandhiji's idea of trusteeship, what is its significance, sir?
So Paritosh, trusteeship is a concept which basically says that those who are well-to-do, those who are the haves, they should care for the have-nots. And he said that the rich people are actually the trustees of the wealth generated by them, and that should be spent for the weaker sections of the society, the have-nots. Because he believed that it is necessary that there should be inclusivity. Everyone should progress, and he believed that the entire capital which is in the hands of the haves, they should actually have a responsibility towards the have-nots. And that is how, in a way, he was trying to talk about corporate social responsibility, that every company, every rich person should have its own role to play towards the society, towards the environment, and also towards the people.
So when it comes to rural development, the core idea of development, specifically rural areas, heads back to the idea of development which was given by Gandhiji. So how exactly and how relevant it is in today's context as well?
So, Paritosh, whereas heavy industries are important, but in order to get employment for the people who belong to a rural area, it is necessary to set up very, very small industries in the village level, so that the migration from the rural to the urban area is also arrested and people enjoy a rural life. At the same time, they have a gainful employment, and therefore it is basically taking the country forward with the help of small units, because when you add up small units, it will become a big unit. It may be a drop in the ocean, but every drop will contribute towards the economic prosperity. And therefore he felt that the big industries which are set up by the capitalists, there should be another type of industries which should cater to the requirements of the village, and it should employ people from that particular village. So in a way, he was hinting towards gainful employment for the youth, so that they do not get diverted towards other materialistic things, and therefore an overall inclusive development of children, youth, and the senior citizens take place in the society.
Again, sir, the idea of panchayats, and again you talked about grassroots level democracy, again heads back to the core philosophy of Gandhiji. How exactly Gandhiji shaped maybe the idea of panchayats?
So, Paritosh, the 73rd and 74th Amendment, which were carried out in the Constitution, basically talks about grassroots level democracy, decentralized democracy. And therefore, Gandhiji thought that instead of making policies and programs and schemes in capital or in big cities, we should look at the requirements of the village at the village level itself. So, therefore, if you see the concept of social audit has also evolved like that only, because now an audit of the works carried out in the village is carried out by the people themselves. The entire Gram Sabha meeting is held. So he wanted to actually empower the Gram Sabha and the people who may not be literate, but they have a basic intelligence with them, and he thought that we must not lose sight of that. And he said that all the development activities in the village should be carried out by the people from that area. And how will you do that? You have to have a kind of a system, and that system was the Gram Panchayat. And if you remember those days, beautiful stories were written on Panchayat. For example, Panch Parmeshwar, written by Premchand. So that actually was based on the principle of Gandhiji, that it is the Panchayat which carries forward the entire development and also ensures peace and prosperity in the area. So they said that the panchayat should come from the people themselves rather than anyone nominated from the top, and they should elect amongst themselves. So basic grassroots democracy should come there. And if you remember another thing, very interesting thing, which Gandhian principles, they are the base for that. When we got independence in 1947, and we had great ethical industrialists like J.R.D. Tata and others. So then the question arose, what is the responsibility of the companies towards the society? There was no Companies Act at that point of time, and therefore the industrialists themselves met and they thought that we must have a kind of self-discipline, a code of conduct, and there has to be some inspiration from where you will form this code of conduct. And there were two inspirations which they draw. One was from the Constitution of India and the other was the Gandhian principles. So the Gandhian principles, we go back to the era of our independence, and till now they are extremely relevant.
Gandhiji sir also discussed the idea of seven sins. What exactly was the idea of seven sins? And again, if you would like to share some of those sins also.
So, Paritosh, Gandhiji knew that with the passage of time, materialism and many vices which has come to in the society, they are present there. So, the vices can be jealousy, ego, greed, envy, you know. So, these are the vices which are there. So, he felt that certain standards need to be kept, so that if you earn money, it should be through correct means. So, therefore, he brought about the concept of seven sins, and he said that people must understand that anything that they do must have a solid foundation or a standard while doing that activity. For example, he said politics must come with principles. So, politics can be ethical, it can be unethical, and he said it must be ethical. So, the politicians must exercise all the value system while carrying out the system of politics. So, that was one thing, that politics should not become unethical, it should be based on solid principles. After all, a party comes to power after making promises to the people in the form of election manifesto, and therefore, through their 5 years, when the politician forms the government, they must exercise the value system, principles, beliefs, convictions which are based on values. So, that was one. The second was science with principles of sort of benevolence or humanism. So, he said that science can be used both ways, it cuts both ways. So, you have an atomic bomb, but you also have atomic powered generation of electricity. So, he said that whenever you have any scientific invention or discovery, you must think how it is going to favorably affect or for the humanity. So, the human being is the ultimate focal point. Whatever good can be done by the science for the humanity, that should be the uppermost in our mind. So, this is similarly, he said that whenever you talk about knowledge, it should be firmly with the principles associated with knowledge, and that is with character. So, if you do not have character, then possessing knowledge will take you to the doomsday. And that is why some people who have excellent knowledge, but they do not have the values. So, what happens is it leads to the degeneration of society. In fact, there is a term which I often like to coin, and that is called power. Power is the sum total of your knowledge and the value system, the ethics. If you have huge amount of knowledge, but you have a low value system, you will be using that knowledge towards destruction of the mankind. So, he felt that knowledge must come with character, and character means dependence, having principled life based on value system.
Sir, it is often told that great personalities have influence of some other personality as well. Does Gandhiji has any influence of any important personalities?
So, it was like this, that Gandhiji also was influenced by personalities, and Gandhiji also influenced other personalities. So, as I have said, Gandhiji was influenced by the teachings of and the writings of Tolstoy, and also people like Tagore and Vivekanand. So, these were the people who influenced his way of thinking. But there were many people in this world who were great leaders by their own right. They were also influenced by Gandhiji. One was Einstein, as I mentioned to you. Einstein was a great believer in truth and non-violence, and he felt that such a person probably never will come on the earth. So, that was one great scientist. The second was Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was an advocate for the blacks, for getting civil rights for the blacks, and he felt that this freedom for the blacks and the rights for the blacks can only come about based on the moral principles which have been enunciated by Gandhiji. And similarly, Nelson Mandela, who was a firm believer of the human rights, and he was anti-apartheid. So, he also was always an advocate of Gandhiji's belief. They never met, but he always believed that it is the philosophy of Gandhiji which is going to take the country forward, the humanity forward, the society forward. You remember Nelson Mandela was jailed for 27 years, and when he came out, he still had no grievance, bitterness against the Britishers, and he forgave all those people. And so this was again a very important thing, that is forgiveness, which Gandhiji enunciated.
So also there is a saying that Gandhiji had a very soft corner when it comes to weaker sections of the society. So can you tell us what exactly was his ideas when it comes to weaker section of society?
So Paritosh, Gandhiji firmly believed in inclusivity principles, and he said that progress should not only be confined to the rich people, but it should also go to the weaker section, particularly the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections of the society. So therefore, he was of the belief that the government of the day must have schemes and programs which are meant for the weaker sections, so that they also prosper in our country, which is a democratic country. And so did he say that the corporate sector also has a responsibility towards the weaker section of the society. He was a firm believer that all humans belonging to any religion, caste or creed, they are the same, and that is why he said that he used to worship both in temples and in masjids and also in churches, because he felt that all religions are ultimately the same. They talk about the human being, the upliftment of human being, the weaker section of society who may not have those kind of facilities, but he felt that the rich people and the government, they have a responsibility towards them.
So as we discussed a lot of philosophies, I would like to ask your take at how relevant are these philosophies in this contemporary scenarios?
So Paritosh, Gandhian principles and thoughts are a well researched subject. These researches are going on even now. There are umpteen number of books written, the relevance of Gandhi in modern times. So one or two things which I would like to say is, one is the world peace. And Gandhi talked about ahimsa and non-violence. And nowadays we see lot of bitterness amongst countries. So you have wars like Russia-Ukraine war, and wars like Israel-Hamas war. Afghanistan has happened, Vietnam has happened. So this bitterness between the countries can definitely come down if all of us follow a principle of mutual coexistence. So Gandhiji said that following the principles of non-violence is going to take the world towards a much better world. So I think it is very relevant, and that is why it is necessary that the United Nations and all the countries should join their hands together, that we have to work for the mankind. The destruction, the misery which is caused in the wars is unthinkable. We have already seen World War I and World War II, and therefore thinking of another war actually sends jitters in ourselves. And it is therefore sometimes said in a lighter vein that the only thing that we learn from history is that we never learn from history. So I think we should learn from the principles of Gandhiji and say that there must be peace all around. Only then we will be able to devote those funds which are being used militarily towards the development of the people. And secondly, we have to evolve greater tolerance amongst the nations, which again was a very important principle of Gandhiji. And third thing, for civil servants as well as for politicians, for nations, for countries, they must work on the value system. If all of us start working on the value system, I think we will lead to a kind of a world which is utopian world, which is the world which we want to see and which Gandhiji also wanted to see.
Thank you, sir, for joining us today and explaining to our viewers the ideas and philosophies of Gandhiji.
Thank you very much, Paritosh.
Thank you all for watching us today. We will come up with a new thinker in the next series video. Till then, all the very best. Thank you.